Hey everybody, welcome to ChannelBK. Welcome to a new episode of What's on Repeat. It's been a while. It's 2021. Joshua, how are you doing, man? I haven't really talk to you since now before the video shot. How are you doing?
Oh yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, I'm halfway vaccinated. I so far I've only gotten the first shot. Next week is when I'm getting the second shot. Yeah, I'm very excited about that.
Very
Uh,
exciting. What's funny is I actually got my second one today.
yeah,
If I feel a sudden rush of pain and agony, which I shouldn't because I only got it a little bit ago, then that's apologies. It should probably be way after this video comes out. If you guys don't know already, it's the normal. We talk about albums we've been listening to. We talk about singles on upcoming albums. We talk about an artist we want to hear from. It's kind of simple, kind of, straight to the point. And it's been a while, so hopefully neither one of us are too rusty, but I feel like we've been pretty good. I feel like our lists are pretty good, and I feel like we're kind of in it still. So Joshua, take it away. Tell me your 2021 albums that you've been listening to January to April.
so this first one is a guitarist from Virginia that I actually recently discovered, who does this kind of instrumental, primitive, acoustic folk music. Yeah, it's an artist by the name of Yasmin Williams, and her new album is called Urban Driftwood. This is kind of an interesting album to me because this is one that even people who maybe aren't typically into this style of music or don't really follow it, this seems to be getting some attention even in those kind of circles, and for good reason. It's an amazing record. She has very unique ways of playing the guitar. She'll play the guitar on her lap, or sort of play it in this sort of percussive kind of way, and create these very beautiful serene melodies and passages with it, and it's sort of proof that sometimes music doesn't need lyrics or a lot of words in order to tell a story. I feel like the guitar really brings a sense of identity and emotion to this album, and it's actually kind of a big sounding instrumental guitar record because the way she'll layer and multi-track. Occasionally for some extra measure she'll put in some kalimba, or there's a song on here, Adrift, that pairs her playing so beautifully with some cello playing. Yeah, it's definitely a fantastic record, and I think I loved it more than I anticipated I would. This next album is so far pretty much my album of the year for 2021. This one is called A Billion Little Lights, and it's from a New York indie rock band named Wild Pink. In January, I listened to their previous record, Yolk in the Fur, which came out in 2018. I thought that was a really good record, and it was around the time teasers for this were coming out, and I was already very much anticipating this record, and I'm very happy to say that this album didn't disappoint. It essentially takes their very kind of well written, kind of breathy, heartland adjacent, indie rock, and kind of builds upon that beauty. It's still definitely the Wild Pink sound that expanded with there's more uh there's more pedal steel and strings, and occasionally there will be a saxophone or an accordion or something like that. Yeah, it's sort of like the War on Drugs, but more Americana adjacent. Which still waiting for a new album from that band. They're still kind of overlooked, but it seems that this album seems to be getting more of giving them more of the attention they really deserve, and I just think it's great. This next album, I don't know how familiar you are with this artist, but I can tell you that almost every critic we love on YouTube has had something positive to say about this record, and it's Smiling with No Teeth by Genesis Owuzu.
So, okay, so I'm only going to interrupt really quick because, so yes, this is an album I've seen everywhere. And it's definitely something that I've been wanting to get to. Is it a rap record? I'm assuming it's a rap record.
Well, I'll say it's kind of all over the place stylistically. I mean, there's rap, there's R&B, there's funk, there's kind of, some of the punkier tracks sound kind of Death Grips inspired, or yeah, and there's some kind of, kind of rockier moments on here too. Like he covers so much ground, but the amazing thing is like it never feels like bloated or like out of place. It actually all flows together. I think the songwriting is actually very good too. Like sometimes when you blend these many genres at once, you kind of, forget how to write, thoughtful lyrics. But I think he does that so well. Like the way that he like uses, black dogs is like a metaphor for, dealing with depression and like, mental health struggles, stuff like that. And the album's just like a lot of fun. This next album's another kind of YouTube critic driven phenomenon, but like a Spectrum Pulse only kind of critical phenomenon, and that is a Danish indie folk band by the name of Sundays, and their latest record is called Inner Coasts. This album, it's their second record. Their debut album Wayaka came out in 2019, and obviously, this band is pretty well known for Spectrum Pulse. Given like he gave like both of their records 9 out of 10, like pretty high praise for a still kind of outlier indie folk act. But I will say this, he's completely sold me on this band, because like there's like some very stellar songwriting on here, and the and like the hooks are really strong, and great vocal harmonies. Like we talk on the show about some of our favorite indie folk bands like Bon Iver or Fleet Foxes. I'd say they're kind of in that lane, because like kind of willowy falsetto to the vocals, and also the sound is like they rely on harmonies and like and also very strong songwriting. So far it's definitely my favorite like indie folk project of the year.
This is awkward. We both look very different. I was gonna say, when we were shooting the first part of this, Josh's power just went out, and
Pardon the technical difficulties.
That's gonna be that is a segue into our the final album we're gonna talk about. So yes, so I apologize. Now I'm feeling the effects of that second vaccine. So I'm gonna try my hardest. But no, Josh brought it up really good. Pardon the technical difficulties. That's a great transition into what your final album was that you were talking about, which is
Roadrunner, New Light, New Machine by America's favorite boy band, Brockhampton.
I planned this too before we shot.
So I told Brian this. I'm just gonna get this hot take out of the way right now. Like, this is probably my second favorite Brockhampton album, right after Iridescence, which he and I both consider their best album. I do think this is a very interesting culmination of like their career, like kind of the raw sort of and kind of the boy bandish vibes from the Saturation era, the big bold ambition of Iridescence, and kind of the introspective reflection and the more kind of pop leaning side of them. That was Ginger. Buzzcut featuring Danny Brown was a great single, and it's kind of interesting. The band seems to be at like their most revealing on here. I mean, like we heard Joba's father took his own life, and that kind of obviously had such a big impact on him. Like the light and the light part 2 kind of deals with that, and I think he and Kevin, their rap verses work off of one another really well, and Also, this is definitely, probably their most accessible record to date in that it's their most feature heavy. Like, of course, Danny Brown was great. Uh, Peggy was really good on it.
ASAP.
So Gone, So Flexy. I liked his intro on Windows, and
Oh,
uh,
I really liked him.
oh yeah, and obviously that song, it's 6 minutes long, so it pretty much leaves room. Pretty much everybody except Kevin is on that song. Some of the guitar passages on this album, like on "What's the Occasion," give off kind of this, like this twisted fantasy era Kanye kind of vibe or something like that. Very impressed by it. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah. So that actually leads into one of the records I was going to talk about, which is this record. So I feel like it'd be a nice transition because Josh actually messaged me about this after I already listened to it. And he was like, "Hey, like I listened to Brockhampton. How'd you like it? And here's my opinion on it. So I do like it a lot. I've grown on it a lot. I think even though some of the songs in the first part of this album are good, the first four tracks in terms of the sequencing just fuck this album up for me. Like, I don't like how the first four tracks on a Brockhampton album barely have a lot of different verses or features from all the guys. We have all these features who I think the first two songs are actually really good and really solid. Bankroll is okay. I think Count on Me is probably one of their worst songs. Like when I first heard it, I'm like, where is anyone? Like, and I know Jabari's on it. And
Matt Champion's on it too.
yeah, Matt Champion's on the end, and I know Jabari's been he sort of is like a seventh vocal member on this album this time around. And I think his contributions are fine, and I don't necessarily think
Yeah,
it
yeah,
matters.
yeah.
Yeah,
And by the way, I do disagree with you. I actually really like Count on Me. Like, the song has grown on me. That's just me. Yeah.
like I don't know. I guess, and the Jabari thing, it wasn't like he was amazing on here or terrible. I think his contributions were cool. I actually liked his contribution on
Oh man,
Windows,
that that
excuse
that
me.
hook.
Yeah, it's very creepy and like it's
Oh
unsettling and
yeah,
like
and so
yeah.
is his like little like da 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 see the sunlight on Buzz Cut is kind of eerie. I like that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of interesting stuff on here. I will say once the light hits, then the album kind of figures itself out with me. I wish Chain On was just somewhere in a different spot on the album. I just
Sure.
don't. I guess my whole problem with the album is it's not the features because I think Peggy, same size as Dua Lipa, where the fuck my pen go? Like he was,
Yeah, yeah.
like Peggy was
Bars.
spazzing. And then Danny was really good, and it was funny because I don't know if I'm gonna keep this take, but we were joking about like normie picks and like
Yeah.
underground picks, and you brought up the whole this is the most normie pick, and he says, you
Yeah.
ain't alphas, you're incels, like that whole, and when he calls him the normies, like that's a funny connecting
Oh
point.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but no, I think I agree with you on all of your sentiments, besides like liking in terms of liking it that much, because I do see all the experimentation, the brashness, but also the introspective stuff. The flow of the album is just very odd to me. Don't Shoot Up the Party, Dear Lord, which is like one of the most amazing things I think the group has done. Just that amazing bareface feature, which it was sad to see not that much bareface on the album, which seeing his interview with Fantano where they all were there, it makes me kind of nervous that bareface is sort of like, I like being in Brockhampton, but I am definitely ready to be like out. Um, but I
Yeah.
think overall it was a really good album. If the first four songs were going to be on the album, Buzzcut is a fine way to intro it. I wish that they switched the sequencing up so it wasn't just four tracks of like basically Kevin Abstract, a little Joba, a little
Dom.
Dom. Like I wish that they broke it up, because then once you get to the light and like when you get to Windows, yeah, you're kind of like, here we go. Like here, like there we go. Because like Matt Champion, he's my favorite. I thought his verse on Count on Me was very just subpar. It was like whatever to me. And then on Bankroll, I think ASAP Berg stole the show. I think Merlin was great on it. I don't love the song like that, but it just, again, it was such a weird album. We finally got to the light, and then that's when it all hit. And then the rest of the songs were like, okay, cool. This is a good mix of all the guys in the group, because I don't need all of them to be on a song. And I don't think it's a bad thing they brought features. It's just the fact that the first 4 songs were sequenced the way they were. It's like, so I'm going to start with Okay Human by Weezer. This is their Baroque pop album. We're not going to leave in the me saying how I said it. So thank you, Josh, for telling me how to say it. Baroque pop album. This is so beautiful. It's so funny to me, this album. Like, it is so Weezer, but there's such a maturity to it. And I don't think they haven't been mature. But like, you look at the White Album, and that album is kind of written like Blue Album style, Weezer and the group. But this album is really well done.
Yeah. Like, White Album is their best in years. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, and like this album, I feel like writing wise, it's a little bit of that, but it's a lot of introspectiveness. Like Numbers is probably my favorite song on the album. Like, again, Rivers just has a way of delivering very kind of obvious ideas or saying them in a more obvious way. But the way he performs it and writes it, you're kind of like, okay, like this is really cool and really impactful. All my favorite songs. That's a great opener. And yeah, it's just gorgeous. The strings on here, the flow of the album, like we're getting Van Weezer, and that's an album that I'm interested to hear, but it's like they're kind of like harder rock sound. I'm listening to this, I'm like, this is like mellowed out, like adult Weezer. It's so funny to me. But
and it's really strange, people still kind of clown on this whole idea they're making a Baroque pop album, and stuff like that. And I definitely kind of get it, that Weezer are kind of an easy band to clown on at this point. But I do think this was, I can't say I love it, but it is arguably their best since the White Album.
Yeah, it is very solid. I do agree. I'm not in the camp of loving it, but I do really enjoy it because it's one of those albums where every time I hear a song from it, I remember the lyrics and I sing it along to it, and I go, okay, so this is clearly an album that is stuck in my head more than I think. I don't remember the artist you brought up, but it was there was the artist you said where you were like, this makes music. You don't have to have lyrics, or you don't have to write this or that. Who was that again?
Yasmin Williams.
Yes, because I remember it was the first one. It's funny that you said that, because I kind of wanted to interrupt you and be like, I want to bring up one of my artists because it's the same thing. So you brought up, it's crazy that you don't have to write lyrics or barely any lyrics and write music, and you can tell a story.
Yeah.
One of the greatest groups to probably do that is a little, I don't know if any of you have heard of them, just a little post-rock group. They might be big one day. Godspeed, You Black Emperor. They are back from a 4-year sort of giveaway, because I think Luciferian Towers came out in either 2017, 2018. I think it was 2017. The album's called Godspeed at State's End, which, first off, lovely title, even though they had to censor out the O so they can make it seem like, they could still say it, but you don't, This is definitely a group that I got into with 2015. I think it was Asunder is part of the title, I believe. That's where I got into them. And I listened to it and I thought it was okay. And then I went back and listened to Alleluia, Don't Bend, Ascend. I believe that's how the full name of that is. And I love that. And I've been going back to their stuff here and there. And then I personally really like their 2017 album. I know their newer stuff has been either up and down for some people. I don't know what else to say because it's just Godspeed being Godspeed. But the textures on here are great. Very beautiful. I really like the builds on here because, again, when you listen to music like this, you're not looking for like, oh, what is he going to say? It's literally, they start here and then the album just kind of takes you on a roller coaster ride. And that's all it is. And I thought the textures on here were really great and the sounds were really great. And there's a lot of pleasantry too, as well. So very good on that end. Once again, this is another connective tissue. I was shocked that this person was putting out a new album because I really liked his 2017 album.
Me too.
Igloo Ghost, Lee Line Eon. Neon Wax Bloom is probably one of my favorite modern, like, electronic sort of experimental albums. I love that record. This record's not as good. I do think it's more textured, though. I think it's a lot more subtle. Like, even though Neo Wax Bloom is an incredible record. I feel like it's a lot more in your face and direct, and I feel like you can pull things out of it easier. Whereas this record is a little bit more. Again, I think like I was saying with Weezer, it sounds more mature. It's still kind of clunky and all over the place, but there's a lot of really great like pianos and softer stuff. And I think the way that he actually puts this album together, again, like I was talking about Godspeed, it's very textured. The noticeable differences are a little smaller and subtler, but I think it makes for like even listening to it, I could understand like this isn't as good as his that album to me, but sitting in it, I'm like, I could tell why people like this a lot because it is still very creative in his own style, but it has a little bit more nuance to it. So I really like that record. That's a great record. The final record, which I think this might be my favorite record of the year so far, and I think it's very odd because this is an artist that I have the most all over the place view on, and that is Haram, Arm& Hammer with The Alchemist. Paraffin, I love that album so much. Shrines, I kind of was like down the road. I think you brought it up last year, and I was
Yes, I
just kind
did.
of and I was sitting there going, I wish I felt as excited about this album, but bruh, this album is so like the Alchemist beats are just so lush and detailed, and like this combination is so odd and it works so well. And it just the moment it starts to the moment it ends, I just remember being so focused listening to this album. And it's just incredible. It's really incredible. Again, Billy Woods is someone that is I like a lot of his stuff. I also don't like a lot of his stuff, which I think is kind of a big thing because I feel like I don't know if I should be someone to love all of his stuff because I think he's very challenging and I like how challenging he is. And Lucid, who obviously Arm& Hammer, he's more of like a rapper. But there's really not a lot I could say that not a lot of people have said already, where it's very incredible layered. And this is me again. It's not like I hated the last Arm& Hammer project. I was just kind of lukewarm on it, but this one
Yeah.
is very good.
Oh yeah. I agree. It is very good. And really, Arm& Hammer already have a pretty strong reputation. So my thoughts on this album, like, kind of proves that, my thoughts on this duo haven't really changed
No,
since last year.
yeah, they're still killing it. And again, I think this record again proves just the amount of work that they put out and how good it is. But yeah, those are my albums. And it's funny that you were talking, we talked a lot about, different opinions or the same opinions, all that. I feel like that's actually a good segue into my singles. So the first one I want to bring up, which I want to say ironically, both of these artists I'm going to bring up, they actually put out a new single the day we originally were filming this, like a new one. So I guess I can kind of lump those in.
Yeah.
Black Midi is back with a song John L. And I'm also going to bring up Slow a little bit because I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I forgot about their first album because I will say I thought they were cool. I did not get the hype. These two songs, I get the hype now. These songs are so dark, chaotic, and just all over the place, but in the most strategic way. Like this song, John L. I'll mainly talk about John L. It doesn't just sound weird to be weird. Like it's so intricate, and it's like this crazy like jazz experimentation rock, like post rock. Like it has like so many different places that it goes to, especially the music video. Like the music video is so strange and it's
Yeah.
so weird. But these two songs, I'm like, okay. Like the first album, I thought was cool, and they were definitely doing stuff that was a little different. It just wasn't my thing completely. This album, I think, and I hope, is me being like, I'm a Black Midi fan now because these two songs are awesome.
I definitely really liked these songs too. And yeah, I'm definitely pretty hyped for this album. It's probably my most anticipated album of May this year. I figured, it would be appropriate that I talk about a single from an artist that I actually mentioned on the second What's on Repeat as someone I was anticipating new music from. That is Be Sweet by Japanese Breakfast. Of course, this is the kind of indie rock, kind of dream pop project of Michelle Zauner. But here she actually, goes in more of a euphoric kind of synth pop direction. Whereas, her early stuff definitely sounded like, she was dealing with her own personal struggles and like grief, because like apparently like her mother died. And the like this song, she definitely sounds like she's more just really feeling herself, and and kind of it's definitely one of the more joyful songs in her discography. uh and I can't say that the risk pans out really well, and this song is totally a bop. uh yeah. And also I don't know if you've seen like the video for that song, but like, yeah, the video is crazy. Like, she did like kind of this X-Files inspired kind of music video, in terms of like the way the cinematography looks and stuff like that. I'm stoked for the new album. It's called Jubilee. Comes out early June of this year. And it's probably my most anticipated album of the year. Like overall, like it beats Black Midi in terms of my anticipation for
You
it.
talk so highly of them, and now you're like, guess what? But overall, you're
Yeah,
not number one.
yeah.
Here's an artist that I'm actually pretty excited about because their last album sort of won me over. 21 Pilots. Once again, they put out a brand new single just recently called Choker. Not as big of a fan of that song, but this song, Shy Away, is such a fun song. I like the lyrics a lot. It definitely reminds me of some kind of last album Paramore with the synth pop, but like with the really dark lyrics and like the subject matter, and sticking up for yourself and not shying away from stuff. And I think the performance is really good, and I actually think the synth poppy stuff on it is done very tastefully and classy. And it's one of those songs where every time I hear that boom 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 boom, like I'm just dancing around, and it's just a really good song. Like there's nothing about this song that's like overly complicated and like overly interesting and experimental. It's just a really well produced song. It's a well written song, and I'm hoping like from their last album, that one was so dark and menacing and just loud.
Oh yeah, really good album.
Yes.
Better than Blurry Face, in my opinion.
That I really like Trench. That album is so good. So I'm like, clearly this album's going in the opposite direction, but it doesn't sound like they're doing kind of like that old school pop punk or like indie rock, like pop indie stuff. Like it sounds like they're doing more synthy pop. So we'll see. Again, Choker was okay, but this song was a good song. So we'll see.
Now for my second single, I'm gonna go into a hip hop single, a bit of a left turn here, and the song is called Rainforest, and it's by Chicago rapper No Name. No Name is honestly one of my favorite rappers working today. Like her 2016 mixtape Telephone was great. Room 25, her 2018 album, was like even better than that, and I think that may even be one of my favorite hip hop albums of the decade. As usual, I mean, there's not really anything happening on this track that's like super new for No Name, but
it's just her being No Name and just
But I think there's some really good, insightful poetry that's definitely very timely with right now. With Black Lives Matter. I love kind of the chill bossa nova kind of beat on here. There's like some classical guitar on here, and it's got the beat on here just has this good kind of vibe that like just makes you want to move, but kind of subtly. Like it's not like a banger or anything. So don't you think we should go into like our anticipated artists?
You know what, Josh? That is a good segue. That's a good segue. I really like yours. Tell me about yours, because when I saw you post that, I go, 2019 is when he came out with the album. And I go, no, it was 2018
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
doubled
It seems
up
like
in 2
years.
years. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways, who is it?
Father John Misty.
That's right.
Of course, his real name is Josh Tillman. I will say that he is like a very consistent artist in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like I know some people would maybe disagree with me on that, but just like I like all his albums to like varying degrees. I mean, his debut album I think is generally fine. There's some interesting lyrics on there, but it just didn't really have much replay value to me. Uh, but his second album though, I Love You Honey Bear, was a really good improvement. Like the both like the lyrics as well as like the arrangements on that album are like beautiful, and I feel like with that record he basically took his sense of humor and kind of how depressing his lyrics could be. He just took that to the next level on
That's
that
like
album.
my favorite album of his because
I agree.
even though I think technically I would say in terms of an achievement, Pure Comedy is probably his best. I don't go back to that record as much because it is a lot and it is very long. Whereas like I Love You Honey Bear is like a nice 40-something minutes. It's breezy, a little experimental, and then like you were saying, the writing is sharp, but it's not like Pure Comedy is sharp in like a wow, I'm really depressed about the world. Like I Love You Honey Bear, I feel like he's depressed about himself and like his situation in his life. Pure Comedy is like, look at the shit show of Earth we live on. And it's like, damn, this is so sad.
Oh yeah, well, God's Favorite Customer, I think, does share more things in common with I Love You Honey Bear.
Oh yeah, it's a little more stripped back.
Yeah, that was a really good album, and I think I actually like that a little better than Pure Comedy, which is pretty much a normie opinion at this point. I imagine he's probably been working on new music over the last year or so. Like, him putting out a record this year is actually pretty likely. And not only am I hoping he puts out another album, but considering all he's been through, I just hope he's doing okay right now. Personally, because he was pretty revealing on like God's Favorite Customer, of kind of how of like all the times he's done wrong, and also still kind of reeling from his divorce and stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely still stand by him as maybe one of my favorite artists that's kind of in the the indie singer-songwriter kind of camp right now.
Top Dog tweets May 7th, get ready. And every person on the face of the planet is all excited for Kendrick Lamar music. As me thinking he's the best artist on TDE, I don't think it's going to be Kendrick. I don't think they're gonna roll out with him. Who do I think they're gonna roll out with? My most anticipated, Isaiah Rashad. So Isaiah, if you're watching, you're probably not. I have a weird relationship with him because I really like him. I was not a huge fan of The Sun's Tirade. I had a problem with that album like I did with Blank Face. It was pretty good, but if you cut down like a good fourth of the songs, it would have been even better. The album was a little too long. I felt like there were places where he went where I was like, this isn't, this is whatever. But I really think he is a talented guy. And I don't think the album wasn't bad because he was bad. It was bad it was okay because I thought it was over bloated. I thought the same thing with Blank Face. I thought Blank Face was a good record, but it just felt like it needed to be trimmed. But we have not heard from him in a long time. Him and Absol, because SZA is literally Kendrick Lamar. Like those two are just in the stratosphere, huge,
yes.
Right? And then Schoolboy's kind of up there, but we have not heard from Isaiah and we have not heard from Ab. And I think out of him and Ab, he is definitely the one that I'm more into in terms of he has personality, charisma, but it comes across in an interesting way. And I think Isaiah is definitely the one that shows the most potential. It's not like Kendrick, where it sounded like he was going to put out an album. COVID screwed it all up. It's like we've had over 4 years now with no Isaiah project. It's like a Frank Ocean. And Frank Ocean, it's been longer than Channel Orange to Blonde. It's been 4.5, more than almost 5 years since freaking Blonde's come out. So it's like we don't know what it's gonna be, and I'm interested in what the sound's gonna be like because we haven't heard from him again. Like J-Rock's been out once in a while, and Schoolboy. However, I don't think it is gonna be Kendrick this upcoming Friday. By the time this video uploads, I think it will be Isaiah or it'll be Absol. I think we have to wait a little for Kendrick, which is fine. But I hope it's Isaiah because I think he's the one that I've been most like, what's up with him? Like, what's going on? You know, like I want to hear from him. So
I felt that way about Fleet Foxes for years, and then they came back.
that wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. But besides power going out and me sitting here feeling like I'm gonna die because of this COVID vaccine. But yeah, we're back with what's on repeat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, you know, I know these videos aren't always like the biggest viewed ones, but I'm still gonna say the normal shtick. If you like, please subscribe. Go check out all of Josh's stuff. He does great stuff over there. I'm not gonna put this in the video because he talked to me about this before we shot, but there's actually a fun surprise coming on his channel sometime soon. I don't know when. I don't want to release that, but he told me a really cool video that I'm so excited about. So you may want to go subscribe to check that, to be ready for that. Josh, do you have anything else to say in our 2-day recording of this video?
Be sure to, check out, all the albums mentioned in this video that you're probably not as familiar with. I mean, please give Sundays a shot. Great indie folk
I
band.
will. Like I said, you once in a while, like there are times where you suggest stuff that I'll listen to and I'm like, this just isn't for me. But once in a while I get like a creeper where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm into this. This is cool. So I'm definitely gonna have to go because I know I look at my list of stuff I have to listen to and I'm like, this is so like I need to really, but a lot of it too is like a lot of these artists aren't putting out stuff because I'm assuming what they're doing is they're waiting to see like, can I tour with this?
Yeah.
And it seems like the world is kind of getting to a certain place. So maybe come early summer, we're finally going to start seeing a lot of those artists. But yes, I need to now dive even deeper, apparently. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out Josh's stuff. Check out my stuff. All the craziness. And I will say, to tease on this video, if you are watching it, Josh is actually going to be featured on the Us and Our Friends channel coming soon. We're not going to say for what, but he is actually be doing a fun video with myself, which we still have to figure out when we're doing it, but it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be, again, another way to celebrate stuff that we like. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK, and peace out.